Hey, my name is David.
And I'm Drew.
We decided to do our final assignment on India and look at the perspectives of one of the largest countries in the world from both outside and inside.
We sat down with two friends from India who had an inside view about the country, and we asked them a few questions about it.
So here we go. Well, thanks for doing this interview, Polly. Tell us about yourself.
Yes, well, as you said, my name is Polly. I'm a senior here at the university. I'm studying family science. I love it.
So what is your experience with India?
Well, actually this time, a little over a year ago, I was in India through my program at school, working at a primary school called Anubhuti English Medium School. And that's where I did my internship for family science. And so I was there for 7 weeks, working in the school from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday.
So where were you at?
I was in the state called Maharashtra in a smaller rural town of only 1 million people called Jalgaon. And so it was a more rural or agricultural focused town, but to me it seemed like a city still. It didn't have huge size skyscrapers, but there were a ton of people there. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this interview. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ajay, and I'm from northern part of India. I did 2 years of my college in southern India, and then I transferred here, and I'm majoring in mathematics.
What kind of city are you from in India?
I'm from Churu, Rajasthan, which is very rural part of India.
So now we'll have a little trivia time for you. Next, we're gonna do trivia time. Are you ready?
I hope so.
Basically, we're gonna ask you some questions that are kind of general about India, and we'll see if you know your stuff or not.
Okay,
So what is the currency of India?
rupees. The rupee.
First question, what is the currency of India?
It's rupee, and according to dollar, it's $1 is equal to around 65 rupees.
What do you think the population is within India?
Something over 1 billion, 1.3 billion.
What do you think is the population of all of India?
It's around 1.3 billion.
What is the native language or languages?
Hindi, and also English is a secondary language.
What are the native or national language or languages?
I think each state has its own language, so it should be around 25, but every city has a different dialect of their own language, so we have more than 1,000 languages.
Yeah.
I think it's around 1,600.
How many states are within all of India?
29, maybe.
How many states are in India and territories?
29 and 7.
What are some of the major sports of India?
I played soccer with the kids when I was there, so they love soccer. Play a lot of cricket. And those are the main two, I'd say.
So what are some of the major sports?
Cricket is the most popular, then hockey is our national sport, and kabaddi, and then there is soccer.
What kind of government does India have?
Well,
What kind of a government does India have?
India is the largest democratic country in the world.
they have a prime minister?
We're gonna ask you some a little more serious questions about India now. Did you know that India is one of the most diverse countries in the world?
I did not know that.
Did you think that much of it before going there to study, or like how did your perspective on that kind of change?
I didn't think how diverse India was a lot before, and maybe my experience is a little different because when I was there was when I realized like how diverse within India it is. Because where I was in India was very different than northern India, than southern India, than eastern India, because I was more western. And so I met a lot of teachers from these different places, and they told me and were explaining to me how different everything was, like the food, the language, even the customs that they would do. And so I came to find that India was pretty diverse.
What is kind of your perspective on the diversity of India?
The northern part of India mostly speaks Hindi, but in southern part it's completely different language, and each state has their own different language which is entirely different from each other. And then there is east of India, and the temperature is also different in all these parts, in North India, South India. Kashmir, we have Sikh people. Religion is different in all the states. Northern part of India are more Hindus, and there are some Sikhs and Muslims also in northern part, and Kashmir and Punjab.
Awesome.
What is one thing about India, or that India has that America doesn't?
I would just like explain just literally everything that's going on. And in America, we're kind of like behind closed doors more so. But in India, it seems like everything's out in the open. Like your business is out on the street corner. Your family hangs out on the street corner. You talk to your friends out on the streets. Like everything is just like out in the open, and everything's going on. And so that kind of is what contributes to this beautiful chaos, is what I call it. But here in America, when you pass someone on the street, you probably only pass one or two people when you're walking down the street. But in India, it's like meant like you see everyone.
So how do you think the world outside of India views the country?
There is so much stereotype also about people. Like I meet new people, and the first question they will ask me, have you seen Slumdog Millionaire? Which they think that every Indian has seen it, but no, I haven't seen Slumdog Millionaire. And they would ask, do you play cricket? But we play other sports also from that.
How do you think that the world views India? Like from outside in?
I would say, I think the world views India as a very academically rigorous and competitive place. And in a lot of ways, I feel like it's compared to China in that there's a lot of pressure to perform really well in school, so you can get into the very limited seats that are open in colleges. I think I heard a statistic one time, but like for every one seat in college, there's like 400 applicants from India trying to fight for that one seat. And so it's just very competitive. And I mean, you look around at the Indians I knew before going to India were always like doctors or engineers or just people who have done so well with academics in the professional world. And so I think that's how maybe a lot of people in America especially view Indians.
So what would you say the Indian family, what family life looks like?
That's good because I'm a family science major, so this speaks to my heart. But yeah, there's a lot of, I feel like, reliance and interdependence within families, because when I was there, I worked a lot with more lower income children, and so we got to go on some home visits to visit their families, and it was not uncommon for this family, mom, dad, and kids to also include aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents in their homes or in their community, and they would all live close to each other because they all relied on each other for a lot, and that's how they were able to get by kind of their rougher circumstances. So it's a very, focused more on the extended family unit too, and like relying on each other and working together.
In your opinion or perspective, how you see it, what does the Indian family life look like?
It's very different here, and even our parents are very willing to pay for education till we graduate from the college. Even when we come to study in America, our expenses are 3 times more than the domestic students, but they are entirely willing to pay for it. So they are more cooperating in that way. But so I would say, according the main difference between American and Indians is Americans are more individualistic, which has its own advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, definitely.
So based on your experience, what's the difference of what marriage looks like between America and India?
Indians have more arranged marriages.
In India, it's very common, it's normal for arranged marriages.
It's still there in India, and people people try to marry their parents try to marry their children in the same caste which they are. So you cannot marry someone from other caste, but it's changing rapidly.
And when I was there, I talked to a lot of the students, especially the middle school, high school aged girls who love talking about that. And they would explain to me what like arranged marriages were like. And it's not what I thought it was, because it's kind of like a process to find your wife or your husband, whatever, where like the family also plays a role in interviewing your potential spouse and filtering through that way. And you also do get a say in your arranged marriages.
So earlier you mentioned the caste system. Could you explain it in more detail for us?
So the Indian caste is divided into 5 categories. First one is Brahmins, second one is Kshatriyas, which are the warriors, and I'm also from a warrior family, and the rest of the 3 are considered poor or untouchables. So the Brahmins are the priests of the temples, and warriors, they were the rulers around 300 or 400 years back. And the last category, untouchables, they were treated very differently, and their job was to sweep and mop in the streets.
So would you say you were part of more like a middle class, or were you a higher class?
So according to caste system, we are very high class, but it's very changed. After India got its independence, we had a law in the constitution according to which 50% of the seats for the jobs and colleges were reserved for the poor people. And so it's a good way to promote them into the higher caste. But the major problem with the caste system in India is that people want to be in the poor caste, not in the upper caste, because they want to get benefit from these jobs and to get into seats into the colleges.
So what's your opinion on the caste system?
It's funny because it reminds me of like what still exists here in America and how stratified our different social classes are. And you know, we say work hard and you can attain the American dream, but there's still a lot of things that are holding people back who are in this lower income status. And so even though we say it's possible for them to rise, like it's so hard. And so I also kind of relate that with what I saw in India too. They say this caste system isn't there anymore, but it's so hard for them to arise from their caste.
What's something Americans do that would be weird in India?
Well, and like when responding to people, we go, oh yeah, and we like nod our head like this. But in India, to say yes, you go like this. So when I came back from India, when I was talking to people, I'd go like, oh, uh-huh. And they'd be like, what?
It's like you're making fun of people, yeah. What's something that people do here in America that would be weird in India?
Do not smile at the strangers when you're walking on the road.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
your answers, yeah. Woo!
All right.
Well, that was fun. We actually had to cut out a lot of that interview just for the sake of time.
Yeah, you guys didn't get to see much of it, but both of them had a lot of the same things to say, especially about arranged marriage and outsiders' views on India.
Yeah, speaking of arranged marriages, what I personally thought I knew about arranged marriages is kind of smashed by this interview. I kind of thought that nobody in India liked arranged marriages after seeing a lot of romanticized movies from like Western culture about marriage, love marriages and stuff. But I came to learn that they're actually heavily preferred in Indian culture, and not many people really even like love marriages.
Yeah, after some research that we did, we found that the divorce rate in India was just about 2%, where in the United States it is upwards to about 50%.
Yeah, so our interview brought up a lot of stereotypes, some of which were true, or at least partially, and most of which we found were actually false.
Yeah, so I guess you can't judge a book by its cover.
Well, that's our interview. I hope you learned something about the place that is India. And thanks for watching.
What is the caste system?
Yeah, we're gonna ask for the cast.
Okay.
Stay ready.
What is the castle system?
It's the cast.
Caste?
Well, that's our interview. I hope you learned something about India.